Dad believed that funerals were not for the dearly departed. He believed funerals were for the living. He believed that they were great gathering meetings. These homegoing services are welcome to all, Democrat, Republican, liberal, and conservative, right wing, left wing, because his life is broad enough to cover the full spectrum of what it means to be an American. We only ask people to come and be respectful in the context of the extraordinary life that he lived. Dad would have wanted us to have a great meeting to discuss our differences, to find ways of moving forward and moving together. And if his life becomes a turning point in our national political discourse, amen. Amen.
I can. Well done. May he rest in peace, but may his spirit live forever, and let us continue the work, everyone. My father was a man of tremendous courage. Indeed, he was the most threatened political presidential candidate in history up to that point in time. And he had to get his Secret Service protection well in advance of the January 1st start date. I think it was either the first or second day that he was running. And he was part of a group of men and women who were willing to die for their beliefs. We walked into those campaigns really wondering if he was going to be alive. That was a very, very real issue that we dealt with as a family. And our father and mother were very, very serious about our religious moorings, about our religious grounding. Indeed, that was the first thing that was one last thing that your father will ask you to do before you go away to college. He said, one more thing. I want you to find a church. He said, baby, because the storms of life, they hit without warning. And if your soul is not anchored in the Lord, you'll never make it. And that is grounded in his deep, deep, deep belief in God and as a Christian. And so that's part of my experience of Jesse Jackson of Reverend Jesse Jackson as a father. But of course, I can think of the fact that he took parenting seriously. He took our family seriously. So because he faced so many death threats before he ran for president, quite frankly, his presidential runs to us were more of the same in terms of the threats to his life. He made everything special. Every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, every event, he would take us to work.
And the legacy that my father leaves behind. And I want every child that's listening and watching this, that Reverend Jesse Jackson didn't start in this house.
Right. Come on now. Come on here.
Take your time, Jack. That he would tell you Jesse Jackson is his third name. For the children that have to be adopted and stepfathers and lives have to be transformed. We come from that lineage. We've been in the food pantry. And that's our calling, that's our mission, and that's what we're going to fight for. It's our loss, it's heaven's gain, and the legacy that.
Good morning. Good morning and welcome to Black Press USA's morning show. This is where we bring you the headlines and the culture. And of course, we are still as a community mourning the loss of Reverend Jesse Jackson. And so this morning we thought we would continue to mix up our flavors. And since it's lit season, and we're celebrating a great man of God, I thought it would be cool to invite another great man of God on the show. So joining us today is 5-time Grammy winner, producer, pastor of Experience Christian Ministries, where he brings a perfect blend of community, music, and sanctuary. Welcome, Pastor SHEP CRAWFORD, to the show. Wait a minute, Greer, we're not ready yet. We're not ready yet. Welcome, Pastor CRAWFORD.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and I'm glad to be here this morning.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you for so many reasons, for the spiritual season that we're entering, but also to talk about how it's important for these days to mix church and activism, like a Reverend Jesse Jackson, like a Reverend Dr. King, and like what you and Pastor Fisher are doing. But before we get into that, I want to get your thoughts of what Reverend Jackson meant to you.
You know, when we talk about leaders like Reverend Jesse Jackson and Dr. Martin Luther King, you know, we're not just talking about great speeches. Right? We're talking about clergy who understood that the pulpit needed to be outside of the four walls as well. I mean, they got it. They understood that, you know, Dr. King preached on Sundays and he marched on Mondays. Jesse Jackson, the same. He organized in the streets and then negotiated in the boardrooms. He stood for what clergy is supposed to stand for. They understood something powerful about the Black church, and that the Black church has always been more than just a worship center, if you will. It is a place for strategy. You know, back in the civil days, back in the civil rights movement, we would get our orders on Sundays. Like, what are we doing Monday? What are we doing Tuesday? Like, it was there. The church was the meeting place. And in today's time, a lot of pastors feel like, hey, we shouldn't be mixing this, we shouldn't be mixing that. You know, if we're looking at Moses, you know, God sent Moses to speak against abusive power and to unify the people so we can get up out and we can stop being oppressed. And then if you look at Jesus, he did the same thing. Jesus, a foreigner himself, came to really talk to the oppressed, and he spoke against abusive power. You'll never find Jesus arguing with the common man, if you will. He always argued against oppressive power. And so I think, you know, when we talk about Jesus and we talk about Moses, that's ancient, but we can touch Reverend Jesse Jackson. We can use that as our Jesus. We can use that as our example, that we need to make sure that we are doing what it is that God has ordained us to do. And that is to be who we need to be for the community. And so they did a great job showing us how to be prophetic without losing the pastoral heart. They didn't just comfort the people, they confronted systems. And I think that what we need to do today is make sure that we are on the front line with everybody else confronting systems.
I love that. I love that. So funeral arrangements have been announced for Reverend Jesse Jackson. And I was surprised how fast they put it together, because I know a lot of times when you have somebody of this magnitude, there's a lot of scheduling and coordination that goes with other leaders from around the world and in our country, but they put this together fast. So funeral arrangements are as followed. On Wednesday and Thursday of next week, Reverend Jackson will be lying in state at the Rainbow Push Coalition in Chicago, Illinois. And I love how in Chicago, like, the Rainbow Push Coalition is around the corner from Minister Farrakhan's, mosque and the school, and they all kind of live, in the Obama house, and it's around the corner. It's all in the same community. But he'll be lying in state on Wednesday and Thursday of next week, and then on Friday, the People's Celebration is happening at at a different location. It doesn't say the name of the church, but That'll be happening on Friday, and then his homegoing services will be back at the Rainbow Push Coalition. And so I think it's beautiful that that's where it's happening. I know when we were at the DNC, what was it, in 2024 in Chicago, they had a huge celebration for him. Maxine Waters was there, Bernie Sanders, Reverend Jackson was there, and they gave him his flowers while he was living from
Nice.
a political in Washington, D.C. standpoint. And so that was beautiful to see that he got a lot of his flowers while he was living.
That's great. Yes, that is wonderful. I think that is very important that we don't wait till someone is gone to really show them their respect and show them their honor. We know what this man has stood for all of his life. And I think it's very important. And I do like the fact that you said, that it's right around the corner from the mosque. I think it's very important that we understand that even though we have different theological beliefs, that Christians and Muslims and other religions, if you will, can come together when we're all concerned about one thing: community.
I love that.
And yeah, I like fighting with Minister Tony Muhammad, Minister Abdul Malik Muhammad now. We have stood together shoulder to shoulder many of times. That's my brother, that's my father, if you will, in community work. And so we don't have to agree theologically on things to understand we love Black people, we love brown people, and we're going to continue to fight for them.
Amen, amen.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, you have formed a partnership with somebody that you've known a long time. And I'm talking about Pastor Michael J.T. Fisher. So let's take a look at this video, and then I'd like for you to share with our viewers what you guys are up to. Let's take a look.
Okay.
Hey, I'm just so happy I'm saved. God took me out the rain. Now I got peace and now I got brains. Facts. Right in his image I made. So it's you, I finna remain. I see that the proof is having me think.
All right, so we're talking about the annual Legacy Breakfast. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so a few pastors, myself, Bishop Michael Fisher.
Oh, he's a bishop now. I'm sorry.
Yeah, bishop. It's all good. It's all good. Takes a second. Pastor Jeremy Dixon, who is actually leading this effort. Reverend K.W. Toulis, Pastor DeCure out of Pasadena, Lisa Collins, and a few others. We came together a few years ago because we all do community work separate, and we thought to come together and really start bringing clergy together. So we formed what is called the United Faith Coalition, UFC, and we decided that we wanted to launch a breakfast, a legacy breakfast on the last day or last weekend of Black History to bring over 100 pastors together. This isn't just an event, it's an alignment. We plan on honoring our legacies, right? We are going to honor Bishop Ulmer. We're going to honor Bishop Charles Blake. We're going to honor Pastor Dr. Wade, right? And Apostle Bam Crawford. So there's a few people who we love, who have led the way. We want to honor them, but at the same time, unite clergy together so we can really, really get involved in this a civil work as a unit together. We know that voting, we're in the midterms. We know that they're trying to oppress or suppress voting. So we want to make sure that we come together and we stand as one in this fight, just carrying on the legacy of Jesse Jackson.
I love that. I love that. And we'll talk a little more about faith, music, and politics a little bit later. But first, we want to jump into our morning pause so we can get the chat involved, because they're over here listening and chatting, saying good morning. And they having comments about the videos we played. Orange G says, don't invite or let Trump attend any of the funeral or memorial services. Now, the Sun said, Orange G, that everybody is welcome to the funeral. Everybody, so we'll see who shows up. And so we want to get into our morning poll. And so there's a lot going on with the FDA, and we know that Robert Kennedy is talking about snorting coke off of toilets and going viral for things like that. So we have to ask the chat, with the FDA recently announcing it will drop the 2-study requirement for new drug approvals. Yeah, they're going to drop it. Do you trust the safety of new medications entering the market? Type yes or no. So do you trust what's happening with our drug market after Robert Kennedy continues to roll back safeguards of testing and things like that? I'll let you take the first answer, Pastor Crawford. Do you trust it?
Let me see. Let me put on my glasses and read what these people are saying.
Yeah, do you trust the safety of the new medications entering the market?
So are you asking me, do I trust it?
Yeah.
Okay. No. Just because I think there's 2 important words that you said there that make me, a little weary about it. And that is Robert Kennedy. When we talk about, not Robert Kennedy.
You're right. His name is Robert Francis Kennedy Jr.
Yeah, right. So I don't like anything that this individual is doing. And so, there's an eyebrow up immediately when you're taking away safeguards. Why would you do that?
Right.
If anything, keep it in place so we can feel safe. You know what I mean? That is it's not a great strategy at all. So no, I don't trust it.
Yeah, and it's like they're slashing jobs. People are walking away because of the lack of integrity of these people in these offices. And I don't think people really understand how long it's gonna take to rectify and fix all of the things that the Trump, his clan, and administration are doing in our government. Seen, but most importantly, what's unseen.
Yeah, no, that's very important. I think, our grandchildren, great-grandchildren are going to be talking about this, and they are still going to be in a culture that's going to be trying to fix what's going on here. This is very important. It's going to be talked about for decades, and even centuries, if you will. And so there's a lot of work to be done. I think whoever is president right after Donald Trump, it's going to be a difficult job, and we have to be ready to give that person grace, because they're not going to be able to come in and just change everything on day one. But it's a lot of work to do, because he is definitely trying to bring America back to the darkest days that she's ever been in.
Right. And it's that technology factor gives a scary unknown situation, especially how we see, the algorithms and people, Black voices being kicked off of social platforms. Yesterday, one of our colleagues at BlackPress talked about how his Twitter account got canceled because he was talking truth to power. We had Mo Kelly on Monday, and he was talking about how his social media got hacked. So it's pretty scary. And I also wanted to point out, you brought up LA Focus and Lisa Collins. Lisa Collins in LA Focus is a member of BlackPress, the NNPA. And so we always talk about how the Black newspapers aren't just about news, but it's news and activism. And I think that's a great example of, Lisa not just being the church bulletin, but actually somebody that is in the community partnering with community-minded churches. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Lisa Collins for that.
Yes. That's the homegirl.
Right. So we have some answers to our poll, and our poll question again is basically, do you trust the FDA and the approvals that they're doing? So David Youngblood says, nope, I absolutely do not trust this administration, but I do trust science. Orange G says no. And when was the last time anyone trusted a man who sniffs cocaine off of toilet seats? I think it's a great point. Michelle Madison says RFK has gone madder. I don't trust anything under this administration and him leading the CDC. Dr. Mellon says many researchers have lost their jobs and funding because of these policies. And I think that's the critical piece, with the you said, being gone away. And John Hopkins, all of these agencies that do cancer research. What about sickle cell research that impacts Black people the most? All of these studies are impacted. Hospitals funding research is impacted. And just those are things that people are just scrolling, Pastor Crawford, and they're not thinking about.
Yeah. It's like this administration told everybody, go to your departments and figure out a way to hurt Black and brown people. You know what I mean? And of course they want to please, their boss, and feed his ego. So, they come in like, we can do this, we can slash this, we can take down this, or we can, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, it is really something that we're in this time. And so I think that we have to keep pushing. We have to know that if they're fighting us, if they're taking down our accounts or trying to mute us, then we must be saying something that is a threat to their efforts. And so we got to look at
it's the baby count. It's the baby count.
Yeah,
that's what it is. It's that baby count. They're no longer the majority. But let's head to Philadelphia, where a judge, we have been talking about this story in Philadelphia, where the Trump administration just went in and took 9 slave stories out of the what's his name? George Washington's house.
Yes.
So a judge on Monday ordered that the Trump administration reinstall the exhibit about the slavery at the president's house in Philadelphia. Just put it all back, okay? Just put it back. That's what the judge said. So in the ruling issued on Monday, the judge ordered the defendants, who of course is Donald Trump's Secretary of Interior and the Department of National Parks and Services. He ordered them all to restore the site to the way it was on January 21st, the day before the signage was removed. Now, those were 9 Black lives. When we say Black Lives Matter, that's what we're talking about.
Exactly.
That's what we're talking about. I don't care if it was 1865, 1701, Black Lives Matter. And those 9 lives, their stories deserve to be told.
Exactly. Especially when you're talking about, the supposed to be father of this nation. I mean, when we went to school, we were doing reports about George Washington, and we had no clue. We were not taught at all in school that this man had slaves, had and beat slaves. Right. And this isn't about attacking white Americans. I think it's safe to say that there's a good portion of white Americans that are good people and have stood with us in justice, whether it was the civil rights movement or the George Floyd era.
Or abolitionists during slavery. It was some white abolitionists that helped and hid us in the basement. So it's always good to have a white ally.
Yes, but this is about white supremacy, right? This is about white supremacy and confronting that. And that seems to get uncomfortable whenever the full truth about slavery is being told. We can't heal the wounds of America and hide it behind the flag. They are trying their best to strip our history, to act like America hasn't done anything wrong. No, you have to address it. You have to repent from what you've done to us, what you continue to do to us, and literally start having conversations on how you can attempt to make up for all of the decades, all of the centuries of abuse. And so I'm glad the judge said, put it back, put it back, because like I said, the schools didn't teach us. And so any institution or any place that can teach us what really happened, I think it's important that it stays visible.
Destined Forever 2 Live says, I wonder about the condition of the monuments and signage. And of course, we learned As they were going through this legal situation, the judge did identify that some of it was damaged, but they couldn't identify if it was damaged there or in the process of them taking it down. But nevertheless, she did demand that they store it with safety and proper care. And then now we see a week later, she said, no, as a matter of fact, put it back immediately.
Yes.
That's what she said, put it back.
Exactly. And it's going to bring more attention to it now, right? So anytime we, they tore it down, if you will, we're putting it back up. But now there's more attention to it. A lot of people didn't know about this until this came out, in the
My
news.
mic just got unplugged. I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
So let's head to North Carolina, where North Carolina AT&T students walked over a mile. Okay, they walked over a mile to the polls after the State Board of Elections decided against early voting locations at their campus. So organizers said it is the first of many more voting turnout events. They're planning to help students navigate voting off campus. Now, the event is the first of many, and it's leading up to the North Carolina primary on March the 3rd. And so when we look at this, I think about, John Lewis, right? He was the youngest in the civil rights movement. He was like part of the first freedom rides that happened in our, across this country. And so when we look at these students, I mean, that's what you call good trouble.
Yes, exactly. And like I said, we're talking about great examples.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can't hear anything. Hello?
Can you hear
me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem.
I can't hear anybody.
Let me just make sure that my mic is on. Yeah, my mic is on. Can you hear me? What about now? Can you hear me?
I can hear now. Okay, I just had to unplug. I'm sorry, Pastor Shep.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. We're working it out.
That's what you call good trouble.
Yes, and this is the reason why we are literally celebrating the life of Jesse Jackson and so many greats in that time. It's because we understood what they needed to do to get it done. And there has always been tactics in this country that try to make voting harder for Black and brown communities. That's not conspiracy. That's the history. But here's where our focus needs to be: not outrage, but preparation. That's what they did. They didn't just get mad and go to social media. They organized. And that's what the civil rights movement taught us, to organize, to make sure that we fight as much as possible. And our kids, our students are showing us that legacy that they've learned, that they're learning in these HBCUs, they're putting it to the work. They're putting it in the streets, and it's going to get some results.
I mean, yeah, I love it that and they're doing it early. Early voting is going to be critical. We know that Trump is trying to nationalize elections, and they're doing. And this right here, these students used to have a polling place on their campus.
Yeah,
the election committee snatched it up. Like, we're going to make it hard for you to vote.
Yes, exactly. We know what they are scared of, right? And they may try to control access, but they won't be able to control the resolve, if you will. And when we show up in numbers, the narrative will shift. It will shift to show the more you try to oppress us or suppress us, that it's going to make us work even harder to do so. We know. I don't care what kind of lie they're putting out there. Everyone knows, even the ones who voted for Donald Trump, who are second guessing their vote, they know what this is all about. They know that they're trying to, make sure that we can't vote so they can win the midterms. Donald Trump has already said that if Democrats win the midterms, that he feels like he's going to be impeached. So we know this is personal, and he doesn't feel like he can win fairly. So they're going to do this. We're not new to this. America's always done this. We know how to fight it. We just got to organize. If we have to take off work, we're going to take off work. if we have to vote early, we have to,
if we have to take our community members,
yes,
exactly. If we got to get the pastors to do souls to the polls.
Yes, exactly. And that's one of the things we're talking about at our event, is to make sure that churches are getting involved in voter engagement and making sure that our communities are able to vote starting now. If you haven't already, dove into that type of work, really churches should be talking about it on Sunday morning about voting and making sure that these efforts don't have any legs.
I love that, because one of the reasons why I got into politics actually is because of Dr. King. And that's kind of where I started meeting all of you pastors when I used to work for Rock the Vote. And I put together a plan for them to do voter outreach in the churches. And it turned out to just be like a tremendous experience. But I think the church is critical when we talk about mobilization, especially just in the local communities that they sit in. So I think that's key. But, Donald Trump, interestingly enough, surprisingly to most of us, held a reception yesterday for Black History Month at the White House. This comes too as the ongoing controversy regarding a recent racist social post he made about the Obamas. And I thought it was so cool that the Obamas showed up at the All-Star weekend, just, front and center, instead of booze. I mean, tremendous applause and love, something that Donald Trump craves, but he'll never have in this country. So Trump praised Nicki Minaj's beautiful skin, while his administration simultaneously diverted $500 million from Hispanic serving institutions and HBCUs. And so I want you to take a look at some of our, as they say, all kinfolk. All kinfolk ain't skinfolk.
Right.
I love them. I want to hear nothing you got to say about their racist stuff. And don't be looking at me on the news, hating on me, because I'm standing up for somebody that deserves to stand up for. Get out the man's back. Let him do his job. He's doing the right thing. Now come on. And Grandma said, if you don't care what folks says about this family, I does. I told you and told you. I love them. I want to hear nothing you got to say about it.
Greer, I put another video on there too. Can you play that one as well? Oh, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. That's what it is. But there was another video, because it was of the woman Alice that I wanted to see, because Donald Trump pardoned her. And now she's over what is it called when she's like the mediator for when they release you, like when somebody lobbies for you and then you get out of prison. Clemency, what is it called? Somebody help me in the chat. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, if Donald Trump said that he was going to pardon one of your loved ones, I mean, would you take it? That's a question for the chat. Pardons. Thank you, David Youngblood. I couldn't think about it. Pardons. So if she's over pardons from Donald Trump, but he was in prison for 20 years. Plus, Kim Kardashian helped lobby to get her out of prison, but her life became better. So my question to you is, if Donald Trump, this is for the chat too, if Donald Trump was to pardon one of your loved ones, would you take the support?
That's a good question. I think for me, I've thought about this before. I think that if it was me, I don't know if I would take the pardon, but if it was my loved ones, I think that I would take the support. However, it wouldn't cause support for him. I'm not showing up to no events. I'm not doing any of that. The Bible says that he'll make your enemies your footstool. So my enemy just let me, just let me out. But I think, he's doing so to make sure that he can continue to make us a token of his efforts to try to show us that he loved Black people. So I'm not mad at the folks that say that they wouldn't take it, and I'm not mad at the folks that say that they would take it. It's what you do after you take it.
Right. I mean, I think that for my loved one, I definitely would take it, but it doesn't mean that I have to play. And maybe I'm foolish to say that. But I know for sure my loved one would take it.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't be my call, but I know for sure my loved one would be like, I don't care what you talking about. I'm getting ready to get up out of here. I mean, and that's just the reality of it.
Yeah. 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 No conditions, no anything. We're don't tell me if we get out, you have to come to the White House and you have to do this and you have to take, no, you're letting me out because you believe I should be out. And that's it, so.
Right. And I love I mean, I love our chat because we're realists. You know what I'm saying? Young Blood said, I would absolutely take a pardon. And then that my life to exposing his racism and grifting. Dr. Marilyn said, I would take it, but I'm not supporting Trump. I mean, why wouldn't you? Okay, because Donald Trump will do a good thing and then do 20 bad things. Okay.
We know it. Yep.
So, but it's never for good intent. It's always something behind it. But I'm glad that let us know, Chad. Would you take the pardon from the Trump administration?
Right.
Let's go to this next story. I put this next story because we definitely it's about faith. It's about a pastor and his questionable activity. I'm gonna let the Shade Room's Justin Carter break the story down. Let's take a look at this.
Greater intimacy here.
Has the internet outraged? A teenage family member living in his house showed up to school with cuts and bruises.
I was arrested.
But it was what he made the boy do on Facebook Live that now has people calling CPS.
I'm guilty of loving him.
Pastor T.D. McNutt is his name. He's leader of Transformation Empowerment Worship Center in West Palm Beach, Florida. It started back in December when he was arrested for abusing a 16-year-old boy that has been living in his house for years, somebody he calls a son. But it got odd last week when the pastor set up a camera and started talking on Facebook Live.
He reported me for child abuse. Glory to God's name. Well, it said child abuse with little marks and no damage to the body or something like that. Glory to God's name. But that's what he said. He spun this thing way out of proportion and did a whole bunch of damage.
It's been reported, though, that the charges never stuck over the boy declining to testify. We're not identifying the boy because he's a minor and subject of a further investigation.
But this one right here, he has lied, manipulated, turned situations into horrific circumstances.
That young man did not come tell y'all that something happened to him just to be talking.
Remember that pastor's face, because I promise you, this is not going to be the end of this little boy's story.
Thank you for still having a godly character. So I apologize that our son took you through this. I apologize.
The Shade Room has confirmed that McNutt has been reported to the Florida Department of Children and Family Services again after that Facebook Live surfaced. It also has been reported that within the last 48 hours, the boy was removed from McNutt's care, but we haven't been able to substantiate that just yet.
All right. So, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, but that video went viral. They showed the video last week. You were able to see the little boy, unfortunately, but he looked like somebody help me.
Yeah.
I want to get your take from that, Pastor Crawford.
Yes, my God. Listen, I saw the full clip, and one of the things that we learn is that when you carry the title of pastor, you're not just holding the microphone, you're holding the people's trust. Especially children's trust, because so when abuse allegations involve a child particularly, your focus shouldn't be on trying to control the narrative, right? It should really be on protecting, the person as well. And no one, I don't believe, can look at this video and feel like, oh, okay, all right, the boy is safe. Okay, good. Okay, now my I feel much better. No, that little boy, I kept looking at him, and the straight face,
right,
the look on his face, which is pretty much saying help. you
Help.
know, yes, it was pretty much saying help. Now, I don't want to judge. I don't know all the particulars, but here's one
And
thing
the
I
girl
know.
next to him too. The girl sitting next to him. She looked like we didn't ask to be in this video.
Right. And at the end of the day, don't get on there and start really bashing this young man. You know what I mean? Like, you said we're doing this because we want to teach him teach him how to be responsible for his actions. And
Right.
in the 16-minute video, he didn't start speaking until the intent, until the 10-minute mark, because you kept talking about how bad he is and he lies and different things of that sort. But so why did you adopt him or act his father, if he can be a part of your family? So I didn't like that. It hurt my heart as well. And I believe somebody said that it's not over. We're going to hear more about this.
Yeah, it hurt my heart too, because to know that, it's a headline for us to be like, oh, that's so sad, but that little boy has to live with that.
Yeah.
And so that's it's heartbreaking. The chat is chiming in. Debbie Youngblood said, if the boy had bruises, we need to investigate. Dr. Marilyn says, picking up random boys. Mike V says, a real life get out situation. And that's wild. Go ahead, Greer.
One of the things that concerns me about our people, right, is that I see this as an example of we're constantly trying to, to make ourselves look good in public. And so we put our children on display. Like we think that this is, some sort of, we're looking for some sort of validation, right? Mm-hmm. Too often, and I'm sure because I'm Black and because of the things that I've generally watch on social media, I'm going to see mostly Black stuff. But I wonder how often other cultures put their children on display in this way when they're trying to discipline and show, well, I'm a good parent, or I'm this, in the same way that they strutted a year or two ago, when they strut that young lady out at a church in Virginia. And
Right.
made her apologize for being pregnant, didn't bring out the boy or the man, whoever was the father, but humiliated this child, right?
Right.
What is it with us where we're constantly seeking some sort of validation or approval about, how good we are, or we're, what I mean? We're teaching our children how to be good citizens or Negroes or what, that's what it feels like to me when I see stuff like this. Right.
And I think that too, but I also think that happens in the white church too. I don't think that's exclusive to us. Evangelical churches and how, these evangelical pastors have these standards. I've seen Lifetime movies with white pastors that are based on true stories.
Well, I'm specifically really talking about social media. Let me put you on a platform where everybody who don't know you, this child, can see your face and make you confess to something. You know what I mean? I know that the fundamentalists, they do that, of the nationalists, they do that. They, that's what they do in those churches.
It's just not in our algorithm because we ain't following them.
That's why I preface that. Like, I don't really follow those, people, so I may not see that. But I see this too often. But you also see it, even the display that this grandmother, wanting to show folk and white folk into how, good. And even the dialect, everything changes. It turns into this, this performance.
Right.
This is a symptom of what took place, from slavery on up. This is identity politics as well, all of it.
Yeah, right. I think we were robbed of dignity. Back in the day, our grandmother said, what goes on in this house stays in this house. And so, we understand that a lot of times, people love to cover up. But, a public retraction from this young man didn't bring us any type of clarity. It actually raised concerns. And the church should be the safest place in the world. Like, so if this pastor is innocent, then let the legal process show that, right? Like, you don't have to make your son get up there, and give a speech about how bad he is. But if there's truth to those allegations, accountability is not optional. You have to be accountable, and you have to literally pay. It's something that has to happen. So I'm going to be praying for everyone involved in that situation, and hopefully the truth will come out, and the little boy particularly will find rest.
You know, and unfortunately, that video was probably a blessing for that little boy, because now we know.
Yeah.
You know, if Pastor McNutt would have just kept his mouth closed, his little secret might have stayed in the closet. That's how God works sometimes. Because now we looking at you, Pastor McNutt, with your dumb self. But we have a comment from Right Wise 1208. They're saying that little boy was me growing up in the 80s, 90s, moving every 2 years with different family members. What I went through, no one believed my story. There was no internet. I guess I got through it. I mean, that's heartbreaking. I get I mean, not to know if you got through it or not. I guess I got through it. That's deep.
Yeah. That, I guess I got through it. Those words I will never forget those words, because that's big. That's saying that, you know, in a way that I did get through it, but obviously he hasn't. So prayers out to you.
For sure. Dr. Marilyn says, stop weaponizing the Bible, hiding behind religion. David says, I understand discipline for our kids so that he doesn't find himself in that white man's prison. However, to publicly ostracize him in public, that lasts forever. It's wrong. It totally is wrong. I hope his pastor friends talk to him. Because that's what it's about too, right?
Yes.
You know,
yes, accountability. And you're right. Pastors should, you know, I've gotten calls and I have called, you know what I mean? Pastors, when I felt like they needed to be talked to, or if they felt like I needed to be talked to or checked on. So hopefully, you know, his community, his Christian community will rally around him and show him that video from our lens.
So not to tell, but when you call a pastor to let them know, you know, what do you say, hey, pastor? What do you say? Hey, pastor, you know, I'm not feeling that.
Yeah, you know, I would tell them, you know, hey, I saw this, or I saw this post, or different things of that sort. And I totally get it. So I think the first thing you have to do is kind of validate their feelings. But at the same time, say, I just don't know if that's going to bring unity, or, you know, usually, you know, when someone is feuding with another pastor and it's starting to go viral, or, you know, they're starting to go back and forth with subliminal messages, you know what I mean? But everybody knows what's going on. If I know those pastors or community organizers, I will call them. You know what I mean? I would say that, you know, you probably want to stop this. Talk to me, or let's try to get you in a room together. You know, I'm good with getting everybody in a room. You know, that is something we've done that several times with several people that, you know, let's get in a room and let's talk it out here instead of doing it on social media.
All right. We can use that application in our daily lives too. Thank you for that tidbit. All right. Let's head to LA, where we are. Thank you for getting up so early in the morning with me. But this is an important story. The Los Angeles Unified School Board members, they voted yesterday 4-3 to eliminate jobs in the district. Now, the proposal will affect over 3,000 employees within LA Unified. And we continue to see this trend with just our job loss, whether it's, you know, the healthcare industry, whether it's, you know, capital, you know, Amazon or UPS, you know, and now, you know, our education system, just jobs being cut and happening here in LA. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, you know, first of all, over 3,000 employees potentially affected by this. So that right there raised concern, no matter what it is, because that's not just numbers. Like, that's families, that's rent, that's groceries. I understand the budgets have to be balanced, but when you are cutting support staff, you are touching, the institution of learning. In communities like ours, schools in the classroom is very, very, very important. And we're trying to gain more money and make sure that we are delivering safe places for our folks. And so how do we take our support system away? And then these people are, again, without jobs. For what? Right. So if we're going to make cuts, let's make sure that we're not cutting the very system that help our students, right? But we want to make sure that we are thinking long-term and making sure that we can put people in place all around, because I'm hearing that is not teachers or facilitators, if you will, but it is the support system there. Well, how do you think that teachers are able to do what they're doing if you don't have the support system there? So I don't believe that is what we're looking for when it comes down to our schools in the LA Unified School District.
But when you hear teachers, you brought up a good point that they're taking away their support system. Teachers are already funding their classrooms. That's why they get those discounts at Staples, because they're buying, sometimes the pens, the papers, and the materials needed for them to advance their curriculum because they love their students. And so now you want to take away the support system around them. It's like you want them to do more work now, come out of their pockets more. I mean, come on.
Right. When we were kids, we thought, when they said, you can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, you can be a teacher. We thought that the teacher made what the doctor and the lawyer made.
Right.
We thought being a teacher, I'm saying, you're well off. And then getting older, we found out that, wow, how are teachers not making more when they are literally spending more time with America's future than even the parents are in some cases. So it's just sad all around. And to add to that narrative, instead of change the narrative, it's really sad. We need to make sure we support our teachers in every way, including making sure that their support staff is still there and present.
Right. And, this could be a trend that happens across the country too. So, it's happening in LA.
Yep, everybody watch LA.
But, it could happen in your community and city too. That's why it's important that, we have to vote. Not just on, because this is the impact of local elections, right? We vote for our school board members here in LA. And they're the people who are making these votes. And so when you talk about representation and you want to talk about that, it's these local elections. These are local elected officials that made this decision, which means that we voted for this.
Yes. Very important that we understand that when we go to the polls. People say, I don't want to vote for a president. I don't know who. Okay, what about our local officials? You know what I mean? Because if you're having problems or if you're complaining about it, you can help fix it at the polls.
You can fix it at the polls. And speaking of the polls, we have two prominent Black women who have just experienced challengers in their races. The first one I want to talk about is on a larger note, though. Maxine Waters has just received a challenger. I'm talking about Myla Rahman. We had Reverend Tulis on last week, and we talked about this, but we talked about a larger conversation of our older, more seasoned elected officials in federal government. Like, is it time on a larger scale? Not talking about Auntie Maxine, because we here in LA, so we ain't trying to catch no smoke. But talking about a larger level, what are your thoughts on this new breed of young folks that are taking on some of our more seasoned and, important icons in our community and wanting to unseat them?
Yeah, I think I think the main thing that we have to look at is the job getting done, right? So Maxine Waters have been in there as long as we can recall. Is she doing the job, right? Because if she's doing the job or she's the best person for the job, then by all means, then we need to support her no matter what age she's at until that age affect the job. And I don't know if her age has affected the job yet. But on the other end, I do feel like we definitely need to train or mentor people to, to be ready to take our
Pass
yes.
the baton.
Yes. So I do believe that. Even as pastors, I believe that. I believe that we shouldn't be pastoring all of our lives, and then when we can't walk, we pass it on to a young person who has no experience with our congregation. So I'm a strong believer to pass the baton. I don't plan on pastoring all my life. I'm shaping the next person as we speak, because I feel like you definitely want to be able to do so. But Auntie Maxine, she's done a great job, and I still think that that she has some fight in her. So this will be interesting to see how this turns out.
Yeah, because the more I got a call from a publisher, a Black newspaper publisher, I think it was yesterday, or a text message asking about this race in Mila. So it's getting out there, and Mila is the real deal. She's a Law Pi graduate, so that means that she's in the workings of Black women in leadership in this city. She's an executive director of nonprofits. So she has a respectable name. It's not like the last go around when it was Joe Collins and then it was a Republican and he was just wacky and wild. But this is a contender. And so it'll be interesting to see, how this unfolds, because I'm sure it's going to come up that the next time I think Maxine Waters is up for election or something is when she's in 91 or something like that. And so this is going to be interesting to see. And it's going to be, I'm going to tell you this, Pastor Shep, it's going to be a lot of Black people that will quietly support this girl.
Yeah.
They're not going to say it out loud, but they're going to support.
Yeah, I definitely believe so. I definitely believe that there are a lot of people that feel like, it's time for a changing of the guards, right? And especially in the climate that we have now, you start thinking, what changes can we make? I do believe, though, that if Maxine Waters lose that seat or have to give up that seat, I believe she can still be Maxine Waters, meaning she can still have the influence that she has, and still move and do what she needs to do. So it's all in God's hands. At the end of the day, I think she's going to be Maxine Waters wherever she is. And so it'll be interesting, to turn it out. One thing I want to say, though, is that if Maxine Waters is not in that seat, I'm hoping that she will support and continue to mentor and endorse, her opponent if her opponent wins.
Well, I'm just laughing. To your point, Diane Watson, to your point, I just saw her in the grocery store the other day. Former Congress member, still gets all of the love, still gets all of the invitations. And so to your point, yeah, you still can have a standing in the community, always on the list, and always be a call for advice. Because sometimes things just change and it shifts us, but it doesn't make it a bad thing to step aside.
Yeah, exactly. And then the people are going to decide. But she's an exception to the rule because she continues to just hold the essence of who she is going to be very difficult to watch that legacy end. But at the end of the day, I think you said it correctly, is people are going to silently say that it's time for change, and they're going to support that by voting.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't even live in the district, so I can't vote. But I'm already hearing those conversations about it. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. And we wish Auntie Maxine the best. And the one thing though I did want to say is the only problem I have with her, if she were to leave Congress, is that we lose that tenure position that she represents, right? And we know that Congress is a tenure type business and organization when you think about who gets to be the committee chair, right? And that comes with your tenure and how long you've been there. And we just saw last year, Jasmine Crockett tried to change that and it didn't happen. No, she didn't get any votes, you know what I'm saying? So that's the only concern I have. If we just get rid of all of our seasoned Congress members, then we're not going to have any power when it comes to these committee hearings, when it comes to education, when it comes to technology, when it comes to finances. You know, if Democrats take over the House, then she becomes the chair of the Finance Committee again.
Right.
You know,
right.
how important or valuable is that to us to have somebody with that experience? So that's the only downside to losing somebody of her stature in Congress.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that with with the listeners in the community, because take that into consideration. You know, even if you want to change it in the guards, take into consideration that that there are some pros and cons to it as well.
It is. And then let's touch a little bit about Karen Bass. She is up for re-election. She kicked off her campaign. And she has a challenger now coming out of City Council, which many believe that Rick Caruso, who Karen Bass ran against last time, who is a real estate developer out here, damn near a billionaire, and he's going to fund her opponent. Which could cause a challenge for her, because, you know, they're trying to get on her about the homeless, the unhoused crisis. Has she really done anything? Of course, the fires are a huge thing that are probably going to cripple her when it gets a little messier. But the question is, do you think that she'll be able to pull it off?
You know what? I think she will. I do think that she needs to really start focusing on informing people on what she has done. And she's done a lot. You know, everybody comes on and talk about what they're going to do, and we're going to end this and we're going to end that. And even her opponents are going to come in and like, you know, we have too much of this. When I get in, I'm going to do this. And when you get in, you find out that it's much harder than you anticipated. Do I agree with all of the decisions that Mayor Karen Bass have made? No. But I do support her. I know her heart. I think that she is wrongly not accused, but blamed, you know, saying for the fires. I think, you know, I mean, you know, we're praying for all the communities that were affected by it. But I think at the end of the day, we look for someone to blame, right? And so because she's the mayor and she's, you know, this is her city, she's going to receive that. But I think that anyone who's in that office is going to have a very, very, very hard time carrying out the things that are on their heart. And so to me, I support her overall. I want to see her, you know, continue in that seat. But yeah, this is going to be very interesting because there are a lot of people against her right now.
Yeah, are we gonna play? Is this where the person erupted her campaign kickoff in Leimert Park? Let's see. This is did you see this video?
So she pointed that finger at me and told me I was going to Sacramento. I'm like, what do you mean going to Sacramento? I'm in the community. She was like, oh, you've been in the community long enough. Sacramento. I was like, okay. You know, Senator Diane Watson tells me I got to do that. Senator, ambassador, school board member, congresswoman.
Yeah. It's what was before somebody crashed that campaign kickoff here in Leimert Park. And Jasmine Canick, they was like, hey, ho, ho, Karen Bass, something they were saying. It was a mess. But she's been getting that. But, you know, a lot of rumble here is mostly about her staff. A lot of people are not happy with Karen Bass's staff. And I think, too, it's important for us to have these conversations amongst ourselves. Like, we can't be afraid to be critical of our own amongst each other.
Yes.
We have to have some real conversations, and we can't just continue to support people blindly. But I think what Karen Bass has done for this city, when you look at the unhoused and her being intentional and a lot of work that's been done, she's done some great work. But I think it's to your point. She needs to come to us and tell us what she's done. Because if you're just dependent on the people who know, who are
Yeah.
kind of savvy, who are in your circle, who pull up for you, you know, you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
Come tell the people what you've done.
Yes, exactly. You know, counter some of those videos out, you know, when they say we need a leader that's going to do this, that's going to do that, you know what I'm saying? Do a stitch and say, you know, actually, I did this, I did that, I brought this down by this percentage, and then let us know, you know, what you've done, what you plan on doing. And I think all of that is going to be very important for her during this current run.
Yeah, see, this had Los Angeles mayor calls for Casey Wiserman to resign from the 2028 Olympics. I mean, I get it, but Donald Trump is in the Epstein files more than Jesus is in the Bible. Okay.
Right.
And so, I mean, I would really be more compelled to hear her say Donald Trump needs to step down. I mean, everybody that's in it, I get it, but come on. That's not going to win an election. Okay. Donald Trump needs to be held accountable. All these other people, let's get back to Donald Trump.
Yeah. And listen, I know this isn't on the topic, but listen, is there hope? Because they've arrested Prince Andrew this morning, you know, over the Epstein.
Wow. Oh. Don't you have a video on that? Can we see it?
I don't have a video on it, but it certainly happened. Okay. And the New York Times is covering all the live updates on this arrest. That's a huge.
Okay. We got breaking news from our producer. Prince Andrew has been arrested. You know, and let me just say something. The king knew. King Charles knew. That's why he stripped them. Remember, just last year, he stripped them of everything. They knew this was coming down the pike. They knew.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. And at the end of the day, you know, this is why he put, you know, why Donald Trump put so many safety bars in place, you know, as president, to make sure that he's not getting arrested. But at the end of the day, I think we all knew even before with the comments that he made about women, about, you know, grabbing them, about going into the locker room and inspecting the contestants and all these things. Even his supporters know. They just so selfishly want to retain power for white supremacy that they don't even care.
Yeah, but that is gonna make me turn the news on when we get off the show, because that's huge. That means that there's hope. Like, Donald Trump will be held accountable. It might not be this week, but things like that happening, somebody is gonna start talking. And you know, I just don't know why any of the women have. They've said a lot, but nobody has implemented Donald Trump. I'm just waiting on that one courageous woman to open up the door to have everybody talk about what that man did to them. So we'll continue to keep you posted on that, and we might talk about that one a little more tomorrow. But before we wrap up the show, I mean, all those records behind you, okay? I mean, we're not just talking to Pastor Shep Crawford. We're talking to 5-time Grammy-winning, the writer and producer of "How Did You Get Here" by Deborah Cox. What about the Tamia song? What song did you produce for Tamia?
Stranger in My House. I think it's the most popular. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, 5 Grammys. So, I mean, not only are you a writer, but you're a musician too. What instruments do you play?
Keys. So piano, keyboard is my primary. Yeah, everything else is secondary, but the keys is my primary instrument.
Okay, and so you've been in the game for a minute, and music is constantly evolving. You know, when you was a musician, I think I first met you when you was a musician at Bishop Fisher's church when he was pastor, right?
Yes, exactly.
There were no Afro beats, and all types of stuff. You know, all the music now. So I want you to take a look at this video from Juan Winans. From the legendary Winans family. Take a look at what he had to say about today's gospel music.
Okay.
Greer, you got us? It's in the link. It's in the script. Did we lose Greer?
Maybe so.
Oh, she says StreamYard is not sharing videos right now.
I woke up with the goodness of God on my mind. I don't know, my car is beeping like that. That was wild. Maybe it was testifying, huh? Yeah. That was an amen. But I have a question for y'all. There's some of y'all won't be able to participate. This is not for you because you're heathens, and that's okay. The grace of God and the mercy of God are available to you. Some of you have been, you're newer to the body of Christ, and that's wonderful. Your walk is relatively wobbly and unsteady because it's new, and that's good too. But you may not have the requisite church experience to really speak to what I'm about to ask. But for the rest of you, you grew up, in church. You grew up in the house of God. I want to know, are y'all seeing people get filled with the Holy Ghost on this new church music we be singing? Y'all know what I'm talking about. So this is not disparaging. I'm not trying to I'll be singing some of these songs. Like, I get it. But are you seeing the power of God fall? Is the service going up? Huh? You ever leave saying, man, that service was high? With the new stuff, I don't know what to call it. I guess I don't know. I don't want to tag a genre. I love all of these people. I love the genres, but I guess it's the Jesus want to hug you music. Jesus is going to take you to the beach and bathe you in tenderness. I think all of those things are true, by the way. Like, I think Jesus, I be needing Jesus to hug me sometimes, but I need that fire. When is the last time when you was in church and you went to the side a little bit, your shoulders moved, or you had a little quickening? And that's what I'm saying. You don't even know what getting quickened is, and that's why this conversation is going to be a struggle for you. But are y'all seeing it? Because if you're seeing it, I'm with it. Yeah, I've never seen it. I'm just saying. And then there we go. And that's what I mean. We had power. We had them songs that, bless that wonderful name of Jesus. Bless that wonderful name of the Lord. I didn't even want to be in church, but I was like, hey. Yes, I got it. Yes, sir. Everlasting life. Where's that at? Where's the everlasting life? I don't know.
All right. I'm gonna let you respond first.
I'm gonna say something publicly that I feel like this is a safe space. I'm getting a little disappointed in the Winans family, their commentary on today's music. And let me say, I'm gonna say that I grew up defending the Winans. So I'm surprised when you say, where's the songs that make people be filled with the Holy Spirit? First of all, songs don't cause people to be filled with the Holy Spirit. Believing in Jesus does. But I take the point. But we're talking about the Winans. You know what I mean? Like, I'm lost without you. Y'all was snapping your fingers and easy to see. I'm lost without you. Were people at the altar? You know what I mean? Or were they, enjoying the song? And I used to tell people, because I love contemporary music as a child or as a young adult, and I defended the Winans. I defended Commission. I defended Vanessa Bell Armstrong. I defended them, in saying that listen to the message. Don't listen to, they're out there to get people a certain audience. They became them to gain them. And then to hear the same family, CeCe Winans have said something about making sure that, that the music is holy. People were saying your music wasn't holy. It's time to make a change. Yep. We are the people. We can do it. You know what I'm saying? A friend of mine and yours.
Hey, that was the jam.
Yes. The Winans, I listened. I mean,
don't forget about Anita Baker and the Winans.
Yes,
Ain't no need to hurry, okay?
Yes. What the night is going to bring, be all over. You know, the wine has broke that for us, right? And then, so I think that I understand that they're concerned about music today, but I think that you got it. They are approaching it wrong. They should be literally showing that this or mentoring this new generation. There's nothing wrong with. Listen. I got an Afrobeat gospel playlist that me and my wife, when we go on road trips, we are listening to. We don't want to hear tamarines all the time. We don't want to hear choirs all the time. We want to hear music in today's time. Marvin Winans said something a long time ago on Oprah Winfrey. He said, "It's not what you play, it's what you say." So if the word, no matter how it's been delivered, is, for, that, a specific group of people, let them do it. Particularly the Winans family. Like, remember all the stones that were thrown at you. And then you get older and you start throwing stones. I think that it should be, I believe, and I love the Winans. I've bought every record that they have recorded. I've been to their concerts. I love them. But I think that they need to maybe dig in a little bit more on what they mean when they say holy music, because theirs wasn't considered holy by the church.
I think that's a great point. And one person, though, I also want to lift up is Andre Crouch.
Yes.
Because he was the godfather of that.
Yes.
I mean, and Michael Jackson, I mean, we didn't even realize how he contributed to some of Michael Jackson's music.
Yes. Yeah. The Free Willy soundtrack.
He was the forefather of, that movement of taking, gospel music outside the four walls of the church and being ridiculed for that. So I love Andre Crouch. So
yes, exactly. And everyone has done that, but this generation, every generation starts to really bash the generation after them. And it's very important that you mentor it. I remember my dad telling me he didn't really like, praise dancers at first, you know what I mean? So when he came to our church and I had praise dancers, he said, in the Bible, there weren't praise dancers. And I said, neither was there a lot of things you guys grew up on. There wasn't electric organs. But for some reason, people have a problem with the generation after them, but they don't look at that their tradition was one time new to the church and bashed and talked about. So I think we got to be a little bit more considerate when it comes down to that, not just making statements, but teach a class, make sure that the people know how to keep the integrity by, while at the same time, making sure they experience all type of styles of music.
I love that. I mean, that was good. So let's jump on the secular side of things. And I want you to check out this clip from Robert Glasper and get your response.
Let's go.
I think there is a little delay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Yeah, it's in there. I'm looking at it right now. It's the next clip. Greer said you didn't put it in there. Oh, story 7. It's the next clip. It says Robert Glasper. Oh, okay. So Robert Glasper, she said it's the wrong one. Robert Glasper was talking about runs and how he's tired of everybody doing all of these runs. Just sing your note. And like all these musicians just going off, just play your part. What do you think of this new era of, the runs and the ons and people just not singing?
I think runs have been a part of particularly gospel music for a long time, and then in R&B music as well too, because most of those artists have come from the church. But I'm a stickler about making sure you know where to put the runs. If I'm on social media and somebody starts off a song with a run, I flip. I won't even listen to it. You know what I'm saying? If they start off any, if it's Amazing Grace, it's supposed to go amazing. And if they come in like flip, I don't want to hear it. You know what I'm saying? Because you're supposed to phrase those things. Like, so it's A, B, C, D. A, sing the song the way it's supposed to be sung. You get to the second verse, you can flex a little. You get to the vamp, you can flex a little bit more. And so you're supposed to build the song there. And I think that people are losing the fact that, or not knowing that the song is the biggest part of it. And the reason why a lot of songs are being held back is because a lot of people are running. People say people don't like gospel music because they're talking about Jesus. No, that's not true. My wife and I went to Stevie Wonder's toy event. We actually met there. So we went back years later and watched it. And Kim Burrell, who is arguably the most technical or, one of the best singers in gospel music, she was singing and the people were enjoying it. And then Kirk Franklin got up, who is not the best singer, and the whole house was with it. So I think at the end of the day, simplicity is very important, even when you have the talent to do all of that. Stevie Wonder is a good example. If you listen to his music, it's a good example of where to place it. Stevie Wonder, back in the day, you couldn't beat him running. But at the end of the day, he knows how to stick to the melody and how to make great music. Yeah, I agree with that.
The melody. Real quick, since you talk about the order of a song, what happened to the bridge? People don't do bridges anymore. And the bridge used to be the best part of the song.
Yes.
What happened to the bridge?
Yes. I was just talking to someone about the Stranger in My House bridge. And, when people listen to Stranger in My House, of course, Tamia, we made sure that she was talking about her man. She was saying he's so unrecognizable that he's a stranger. But then the bridge says, pop quiz, tell me when we first kissed, tell me where my spot is, tell me if I liked it or loved it. And here's the important part, she says, or could it be that the stranger is me? Have I changed so drastically? Is it I want more from me and you remain the same? So the bridge literally let us know that she, the character of the song, is the stranger. And so I think bridges are very, very important. A bridge is supposed to be able to take you home, right? And I don't know if it's because people attention span is not as large as it was back in the day, so songs are shorter. But I'm a bridge person, and I never give up on the bridge. If you listen to any of my songs, I'm definitely going to have a bridge that you remember.
I love it. I love it. Oh my God, I could talk to you forever, but we're running out of time. And so I want to let's start how we started, ending it with faith. Fat Tuesday happened, and then yesterday started something special because it traditionally doesn't happen this way. But we went into Lent yesterday, and Ramadan started. And so, I mean, with all that's going on, I want to leave you with maybe give us some parting words of encouragement or something as we go through this holy time in two religions. Some people are fasting, but nevertheless, God is available. So I would love for you to give us some spiritual thought.
Yes, I must, first of all, I want to acknowledge that Ramadan and Lent is happening kind of simultaneously at the same time. So I do like to point out the fact that Christianity and the Muslims, even though we disagree, again, it still brings us together, at least in a time of observing. And even though I don't personally observe Lent, at our church, we absolutely respect it and really respect the spiritual discipline behind it. And so I think it's important that we know that anytime that you take off, or that you take to get closer to God and to literally start looking at yourself and kind of toning down your life so God can turn up in your life, I think should be applauded. And I pray for people in these 40 days, because a lot of times, it gets so hard that on day 41, you go back to the negativity even stronger because you've missed it. So I'm hoping that it's not just fasting, but that it is really a time of discipline, really a time of getting closer, really a time of replacing. When it comes down to fasting, it's not just giving up something, but it's replacing it, right? And so when we first started fasting years ago, me and my wife and I, from food, we were like, or TV, we were like, what do we do, right? And it wasn't until later in life that we found out, oh no, when we fast, we have to replace it with something, the word of God, making sure that we are really, really talking to him, biblical truths, having conversations, prayer, going to church. So just kind of make sure that while you're doing this, that you're really seeking God and not just following tradition, but really seeking God about you, about your moves, what you need to be doing, and your purpose in life. And I think that it'll be a great thing.
I love that so much. And thank you so much for joining us this morning. And just that, like, I think that you represent such a balance when people have their faith walk. You know, it's like, you know, we can love God and we can love life too and have a good, fun life. And we can make a Grammy Award winning secular record and a gospel one. And God is pleased with it all. So thank you so much. I would love to have you back in the near future as you continue to mix faith and activism. Be sure to check out Lisa Collins' LA Focus, where she brings you the faith perspective on a local and national level. So go follow them. She is a member of the Black Press. As we celebrate 199 years, the Black church is instrumental in that conversation, and Lisa Collins has that covered. Okay. And then for the latest in Black news, you want to head over to blackpressusa.com for the latest in Black news. We'll be back tomorrow. Nakima Levy from Minneapolis is going to ride co-pilot with me tomorrow. So we're going to get an update on the Target boycott. We're going to find out what's happening with Minneapolis, with her court case, and we're going to dive into some headlines. So tell a friend to like and subscribe, support the Black Press, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.